Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, a show for loyalty marketing professionals. I'm Paula Thomas, the founder and CEO of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, where we feature insightful conversations with loyalty professionals from the world's leading brands. Today's episode is part of the Wiser Loyalty series and is hosted by Bill Hanifin, Chief Executive Officer of the Wise Marketeer Group. The Wise Marketeer Group is a media, education and advisory services company, providing resources for loyalty marketeers through the Wise Marketeer digital publication and the Loyalty Academy program that offers the Certified Loyalty Marketing Professional or CLMP designation. I hope you enjoyed this episode, brought to you by Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV in partnership with the Wise Marketeer Group.
Welcome, everyone. It's Bill Hanifin. I'm the managing editor of The Wise Marketer, and I'm here for a Wiser Loyalty podcast series with Steve Allmen. Steve, how are you today?
I'm great, Bill. Fantastic. Yourself?
Good. Really good. Really good. For those that haven't joined us before, the Wiser Podcast Loyalty Series is a partnership between Let's Talk Loyalty and the Wise Marketer. And throughout 2024, we were with you every week, and we went through a lot of different aspects of our Loyalty Academy curriculum. We talked about sort of nuts and bolts, and we brought some ideas forward. But this year, we moved it up a notch. We moved it up to the C-suite. So we're on a mission to talk to CMOs and talk to people that are in the know about customer marketing, customer data, engagement, everything to do with that space. And so we're really fortunate to talk to Steve, who's responsible for membership marketing. And I'll let you tell you about himself a little bit in a minute, but partnership marketing and a lot more at the Canadian Automobile Association. So Steve and I have known each other for a long time, and I'm just privileged to have a few minutes of your time. So again, thanks for being here.
Anytime, Bill. Anytime. As one of the first CLMPs, I'm super happy to support Wise Marketer and the Loyalty Academy. I remember the early days sitting in a room with you and Mike Capizzi trying to figure it all out. So here we are.
Yeah, trying to put courses on paper when there were none. Yeah.
Thank God for Margaret, because I think she's the only one who had the course descriptions.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's absolutely right. So let's bring everybody up to date. Just give them a foundation, because you and I have known each other, but I don't want to assume anything. So talk about, just if you can just summarize, you have an incredible history in the business, but just do that and then talk about what led you to the CAA and what you're responsible for these days.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks. Listen, I've been in the loyalty business for a long time in Canada, and I am Canadian. But I got my start really with Air Miles, late 90s. Everybody who was anybody in the Canadian marketplace at some point spent time at Air Miles. And I'm a strategic alliance business development guy who found loyalty after a career in data. I spent a little bit of time at Air Miles, sort of at the peak of the business, late 90s, lots going on. Coalition loyalty was still relatively new, but some really cool things were happening. Left there, ended up at the Hudson's Bay Company. So moved from coalition loyalty to proprietary loyalty with the Hudson's Bay Rewards program. 300 plus year retailer trying to figure out CRM data and loyalty on a card swipe linked to credit cards. So again, early days, but still really important use of data, CRM, and communications. After a couple other stints, I ended up at Aeroplan. So I've now gone from coalition loyalty to proprietary loyalty to frequent flyer. And again, Aeroplan was in a very transitional time as we were moving from just Air Canada's program. The parent company acquired the Nectar business, which meant we picked up a whole bunch of expertise from our friends in the UK, ultimately Carlson Marketing. So I had great people around me, great things happening. And I left, sort of pre them being reacquired by Air Canada. So I had a really good opportunity to learn from some great practitioners of loyalty at the Air Miles, at Hudson's Bay, and at Aeroplan. And then in 2015, with a phenomenal partner, Joanna Walker, I set up a company called Loyalty & Co. And we decided that instead of working for everybody else, we were going to work for ourselves. And we've got some great clients, and I'm still an advisor for Loyalty & Co. Joanna's running a an incredible business. She's a great practitioner of loyalty and gift cards. But one of our early clients was actually CAA, the Canadian Automobile Association.
Oh. Mhm.
So we came in really as loyalty whisperers, did some presentations, did some consulting, and it started at 1 day a week, ended up being 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week.
Mhm.
Loyalty and Co. is still cooking along, and I decided I was ready for just a different phase in my career. And I joined them as a fractional executive in 2020, and I
Mhm.
joined them as a full-time executive in the fall of 2022. So I had worked with them through COVID and
Okay.
ended up setting up shop, and here we are. So I'm EVP strategy and partnerships, and I'm essentially accountable for essentially the business line. So I run
Mhm.
all partnerships, third party, which is our rewards program. I run our membership and marketing team. I run our travel business as well as automotive services. And when I
Mhm.
say run it, we at CA National don't actually own the member or the marketing that's owned by the clubs. So we are essentially
Okay.
consultants to the stars, and we support all the
Hmm.
clubs with all the things that they do, and
Mhm.
we are essentially aligning how all the clubs work together. So it's a really interesting mix of running a business, but also consulting for internal clients. And we have some great clubs, great partners, great members, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be there.
I bet it is. So yeah, interesting business model, isn't it? And I want to say, like from a consumer standpoint, who doesn't know AAA? Like if you live in the US with like I do, you know AAA. I mean, every one of us has been on the side of the road with a dead
Yeah,
battery or a
yeah,
flat tire, and we've said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I belonged to AAA."
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and but I'm curious, like, how does you've got CAA, AAA. Are they all part of one organization? Is there an umbrella that sits over all of it? And how are you the similar and how are you different?
Yeah, it's complicated, but I'll see if I
Oh,
can unpack it a little bit. So the Canadian
okay.
Automobile Association is a not-for-profit. We have 8 clubs in Canada, 7.4 million members. We're a very
Mm,
large mobility roadside emergency roadside assistance business,
right.
as is AAA. AAA is 57 million members across 9 clubs. Their largest club is almost 19 million members. Their smallest club is south of 100,000. So there's a real difference. Same in Canada. We've got one club of 150,000, another club of almost 2.5 million. So we've got
Oh,
quite a variety. We're coast to
mhm.
coast, as is AAA. CAA is its own independent federation. We are affiliated with AAA through 2 things. One is reciprocity. And all that simply means is that if you're driving up from Florida and you come into Canada and your car breaks down, you call
Mhm.
AAA in Florida and a CAA tow truck will show up. If I'm in Florida visiting you and my car
Yeah.
breaks down, I call CAA and a AAA truck shows up. So it's reciprocity on roadside
Okay.
assistance. And that's sort of the easiest way to describe it. We also
Hmm.
have a lot of shared capabilities in technology and platforming, and I'll talk a little bit about the data part.
Hmm.
CAA is also part of a large umbrella group called the FIA. And pardon my French, it's the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. There's two
Oh,
branches to that. One is
okay.
the sporting branch, and the second is mobility. So sporting is Formula One. So the
Oh,
FIA are when you watch a Formula One race, you'll hear about the FIA stewards. They're the
yeah.
rules and governance of Formula One. They have a second group, which is mobility, and that is roadside assistance and mobility clubs around the world. And I believe there's north of 200. Um, and I think in total, when you add all of our clubs together, there's a very large club in Japan, 20 million. There's a very large club in Germany. There's smaller clubs. There's a club in Botswana. There's a club
Mm.
in the Grand Cayman Islands. So there's very small and very large clubs.
Hmm.
All of these groups are all aligned. And I think it's about 190 million members worldwide. The
Wow.
one club or the one organization that's not part of FIA is AAA. But
Oh.
AAA and CAA are also part of a group called the GMA, which is the Global Mobility Alliance. And that's a little bit of a separate group. And that's very much strategic again, rules and operations, but we have clubs in Asia Pac, Europe. Some clubs belong to both groups. So there's some
Hmm.
complications on a political side. Being
Yeah.
good Canadians, we're right in the middle. We like to play with both sides. We work with AAA very closely. We also work with the GMA and the FIA. So essentially the same business models. And
Okay.
I sit on some subcommittees out of AAA. I'm at a AAA event next week, so we have a lot of sharing of best practices and expertise and all the other
Hmm.
pieces. So that's a great addition to my career path because it lets me work with some great folks in the States and all around the world.
Wow. It's fascinating. And like you said, complex, but you explained it really well. It's
Thank you.
clear. Interesting thing to me is I had no idea there was this affiliation with the Formula One group. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, you should leave it.
I'm going to Monza in September, so I'm very excited
Ah,
about that. So
good for you. Good for
yeah,
you. Hey, leave it to the Americans to be the ones that aren't connected with that. So we're
yeah,
just trying to figure out Formula One here in the U.S. So
yeah. It's all good.
get
It's
getting
we
there.
don't own NASCAR. We just it's Formula One. That's
Right.
it. So, but
Well,
that's okay.
I can tell you that since I'm close to Miami, that the Formula One race last year was absolutely sold out and just covered up with people, interest, and money. So it's
Yeah,
catching
it's
on
a
here pretty
great
quickly.
experience. Great
It
experience.
really is. So the value proposition at CAA that I would be familiar with as well, AAA, is this whole package of services and benefits.
Yeah,
But it's as a membership group, I'm really intrigued with membership and loyalty because the two cross, and I'm just wondering, like, what is you even mentioned that you're responsible for partnerships, but you said loyalty was part of that. So can
correct.
you sort of clear up that on the map too? Like, what does loyalty really mean at the CAA, and how does it relate to the overall value proposition that you have for members?
Yeah, it's a question we get a lot. And I think the easiest way to think about it is people join CAA or AAA really
Hmm.
as an insurance policy against exactly what you said. My car is going to break down. I want my kids safe. I want to make sure that they've got all the things that are there. So they pay their money on an annual basis to join our membership. Um, some people come in through our travel business. Some people, because we run a very large travel business. We're also a very large insurance company, both in Canada and in the United States. So
Hmm.
people come into AAA or CAA for a reason. They want some level of protection, trust, advocacy, whatever it could be. They don't join us as a loyalty program, but they become loyal to us. And so
Hmm.
loyalty without a currency is very important to all of our businesses. So what are the things that we measure? We measure acquisition rates. So how do we acquire more members? We
Hmm.
measure engagement rates. How do we make sure that people are doing more things with us? Because
Hmm.
those two things ultimately lead to the one of the core metrics for us, which is renewals. Because people are paying hard-earned money to join our program. So we want to make sure that they're
Sure.
getting good value. So where the partnerships start to come in is as a member of CAA, I get benefits just for being a member. I get better rates on my insurance, subject to all the underwriting rules and regulations. And
Hmm.
that was for the underwriters at the clubs. I get better rates on travel bookings. I get better rates when I stay at a Marriott hotel or a Choice hotel or a Hyatt. I get better rates when I book a cruise. I get better rates when fly on Air Canada. I get those because I'm a CAA member. I also get more value from things that are touching everyday life. So again, slightly different in Canada and the US, but we both have a rewards or a discount program that we have in place. In Canada, we have dining partners. We have a partner called Recipe, which is Harvey's, Swiss Chalet, Eastside Mario's, Montana.
Oh yeah.
So
Hmm.
burgers, rotisserie chicken, casual dining, ribs. They also have a couple of the brands out west. We have Dulux Paints, which is a paint retailer. We have a company called RW and Co, which is fashion retail. And then we have bigger partners that drive, a lot more transactions. Our largest partner is Shell. And if you've heard
Mm.
any of the my podcasts before, we talk an awful lot about Shell. We have a national partnership with Shell. Swipe your card, get 3 cents off a liter, not a gallon, but three
Hmm.
cents off a liter at the
Hmm.
pump, instant rollback.
Hmm.
What's interesting about it is it's stackable. And I mean stackable because you can swipe
Okay.
your CAA card, you can swipe your Air Miles card, and you can pay with your payment vehicle of choice. So in
Hmm.
essence, you begin to triple dip. CAA discount, air
Ooh,
miles
yeah.
currency, and the loyalty program of the credit card that you choose. Because of the BMO, the Bank of Montreal relationship with air miles, there's an
Hmm.
accelerator from the Bank of Montreal. So that drives incredible frequency, as we all know, Bill, gas, grocery, pharmacy, telco,
Yeah.
the stables of every loyalty program.
Right.
Our partnership with Shell drives incredible transactions, incredible value. We also get 10% off at C-store in some of the provinces and car wash. And it
Hmm.
just creates that frequency touch point that our members easy to do. Sign up for their app, for the Shell app. It's even easier.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
to me, loyalty is about building loyalty to the brand, loyalty to the trust, and knowing that if you need us, CAA is there. It could be a flat tire. It could
Hmm.
be, I want to travel. It could be, I need gas. We're always there in your journey. And we continue to look for more partners. Um,
Hmm.
the US has a partnership with Shell. They've also got a partnership with T-Mobile. They've got
Hmm.
a credit card, two credit cards actually, one with Bread Financial, and then they've
Oh
got
yeah.
another one in another market. So we don't have a credit card partner yet. So it's all about those touch points and the frequency and all the ways that we can build value for you as a CA so that you will renew. And what does it
Hmm.
mean for us? We're tracking, 2+% growth year over year. We're at a
Okay.
90% renewal rate on
Wow.
average with an
Okay.
85 average net promoter score. That's true
Wow.
loyalty. Those are
That's
numbers
really
that
good.
yeah, those are numbers that people would kill for. We're
I'll
very
say.
proud of those numbers. Very
And
proud of
you
those
did all
numbers.
that.
Well, I'm not gonna take credit for everything. We have incredible leaders at our clubs. We have our BCAA club, which is in British Columbia, Alberta Motor Association, and then all the
Right.
CAA branded. They're incredible, passionate people, very community oriented, very much about making sure
Hmm.
that they're embedded in the communities that they sit within, and they are constantly about building that advocacy for the business. That takes a
Right.
lot of time. And we're 110 years old, so we've been doing it for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So this really hits a nerve in a good way for me because we've been having this conversation lately about if the consumers and the research we've seen are more, they're telling us they're interested in brand loyalty much more than
Mhm.
programmatic loyalty. And I heard a CEO recently say, he said, I think customers are loyal to experiences, not just the brands. It's the experience, and they're certainly more loyal to the brand than a program per se. So it sounds like that's exactly where you are. That's the way you've been building your value proposition. And but I'm wondering how, like for you, for CAA, where does the experience come in? Is that delivering on the aspects of like you can trust us, we can help you in that moment of need? Making sure that operationally those things go smooth. Is that the reinforcing CX that you deliver, or is it something else?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I'll be perfectly honest.
Mm.
There are some consumers that sign up for CAA and
Hmm.
never talk to us, and yet they
Oh.
continue to renew. So it's in their back pocket because they know that we're there. And that could be
Hmm.
because they've got an older vehicle, they've got kids, they've got, you know, parents, whoever is
Yeah.
driving.
Sure.
There are other members that we know that when they engage with us and when we deliver the right amount of value to them, and that value could be 3 cents a liter. It's not a huge amount, but in today's economy and with consumer spending and all the other things that are going on, the pressures, every penny helps in your pocket. So if
Hmm.
we make it a very simple process and it's a simple swipe, just swipe your card, it rolls back right at the pump, then the
Right.
consumer knows that I got that because I'm a CA member.
Hmm.
If they, they walk into a hotel and when you say AAA or CA, the oval on a hotel, it's been
Hmm.
inspected, it's been supported, and so there's a guidance to it.
Hmm.
Um, we just did something in Canada recently, like 3 weeks ago. We did a winter EV test. So what do I mean by that?
Okay.
You're in Florida, so the mileage that you get or the charge rate that you get on an EV is very different than somebody who lives in Vermont or
Yes.
Ottawa or Montreal.
Hmm.
So we actually took
Hmm.
14 vehicles and tested them from Ottawa, Canada, Ontario to Mont Tremblant, beautiful ski resort in Quebec, and
Hmm.
actually drained them 100% of their charge. How long do they
Okay.
take to drain? How long do they take to recharge? We
Yeah.
did that because the Canadian consumer trusts us to tell them the real story about the vehicles. We weren't trying to throw any vehicles under the bus. We were just
Right.
trying to simply say the EPA ratings for California, fantastic. Not the same when you get winter conditions. We may do
Right.
another one for summer testing. So for us, it is about delivering member value. It's about
Okay.
delivering trust that we're not going to mess with your data. We've got a lot of data that we leverage and we're constantly marketing to it, but it
Right.
really is about that trust metric that's so important to us. And it's
Hmm.
why our partners love us because they know
Hmm.
that they're dealing with a reputable firm, very strict on privacy rules and regulations, always about delivering value and always delivering excellent level of service. Otherwise, we're not in
Hmm.
business.
Yeah. Well, there are a bunch of questions I want to ask you, but since you just mentioned about data, zero party data, everybody's talking about it. And I think it's interesting, this revelation that zero party data, it suddenly has a name, but we've been talking about this in the loyalty business for a long time, trying to
Yeah,
build out our knowledge of customer profiles with data that they're willing to give us.
yeah.
What are you doing at CAA to so-called build out those profiles that might inform the kind of partnerships that you're developing, et cetera?
Yeah, again, it's a complicated question, and again, the reason I would say that is because every CA member has a membership number. So we
Okay.
essentially know who you are based on that number.
Mm-hmm.
And again, different levels of data, different levels depending on when you joined. If you joined 30 years ago, I may not have an email address for you. So we've got some
Yeah.
different things.
Okay.
The Canadian privacy rules are very strict on what you can and can't do. Our
Right.
province of Quebec has probably some of the most stringent rules. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it was Bill 25. So there's
Okay.
rules and regs as to what we can and cannot do with that data. We do capture information on you. And again, remember, we've got transactional data you bought at Shell. We've also
Mm.
got other data because we resell life insurance. We have property and casualty insurance. We have travel insurance. So we may
Mm-hmm.
have data on a member, and we have to be very careful about how we manage that. But most of that
Mm-hmm.
data is actually owned by the club itself, not by my area. We're an
Mm-hmm.
aggregator. So again, very, very strict rules and regulations on how we communicate, what we do, always looking for consent, always following guidelines of opt-in and opt-out, et cetera. But it's a
Yeah.
concern for us because with, you know, with great data comes great responsibility, as with everything else, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So we're very, very careful about it and very careful. We do not sell our list. We
Mm-hmm.
work very stringently with our partners to make sure that we've got good management, and we're
Mm-hmm.
lucky that we've got best practices from around the world to share. So I think from our standpoint, data is core to us, but we're also
Yeah.
very respectful of the power of data and what we can and can't do with it.
That's absolutely the right perspective. That just, yeah, underscores your wisdom in this business. So I've got to ask you about AI. I'd be,
Yeah.
I just, I think somebody was tapping me on the shoulder to ask about AI, but it's irresistible these days. You have to. It's just out of a sense of wanting to really understand the overall impact. Like, we see how it's applied in some businesses, but is it part of your strategy right now, or is it something you're just allowing to develop at a pace, but it's not necessarily like core to some big initiatives that you have underway?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I know that everybody's asking about it. So we
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have an AI committee that we've struck at CAA to look at the impact. A
Mm-hmm.
couple of the clubs have gone a little bit deeper and actually have
Mm-hmm.
embedded AI strategy within. But I'll give you three case studies on how I look at AI in our business. So
Okay.
AI to me is just smarter learning. That's the way that I always think about it, right? We've been doing
Yeah.
AI for years. We're just doing it faster now, and there's some scary stuff. I'm not expecting the Terminator to show up at my house in the next little
Uh,
bit, but But
Right.
one area of AI that's really interesting for us, we know exactly historically where cars are broken down. So imagine using AI to better support the delivery of the tow truck into areas that have higher than average rates of breakdown.
Okay.
It could be because of bad roads, more flats. It could be because of cold weather, more battery discharges. It could be any number of different things.
Hmm.
So if we could use AI to help predict, and we've been doing this through a couple different areas to set up our route management for our fleet and contractor tow trucks. That
Hmm.
means we're going to get better service for our consumer. Why? Because it's going to take
Right.
less time to get a tow truck there. Now, there's the
Right.
anomaly that's going to happen. Bill, you happen to be in an area and you broke down and we didn't predict it, but that's okay. The
Right.
second area that I would look at would be in travel. So we are very much a experiential travel business with live agents, physical agents, and
Hmm.
online booking. But imagine a world where you're now leveraging AI to do itinerary planning and creating some linkages within your travel booking engines. Again, future state, but it's certainly there. And
Hmm.
then the other area of AI that I get really interested in is in behavioral marketing. So how can we
Hmm.
predict your behavior based on what you're doing today versus what you might do in the future? So we have our marketing teams looking at AI. We've got our operational teams looking at AI. Travel,
Right.
we haven't figured
Hmm.
it out. We're a long way. We've done readiness studies. We've
Okay.
done some great work with the Canadian Marketing Association on AI. We've got a bunch of consultants that we've used. So it is front and center on every conversation, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we figured out what the secret sauce is. Not a hope.
Yeah. Reasonable. Reasonable. So if you step back from this conversation, some of the trendy topics, zero party data, AI, et cetera. I mean, in the time that you've been there, are you starting to gather a list of best practices for growing value across big membership groups?
100%, 100%. And
You
you
willing to share
know,
any of it?
well, I
One or
think the
two.
best, yeah, I think the best practices, are really the following. And again, we are a membership group that's not for profit. That's probably the most important thing
Okay.
because we are not there to make money off of our members. We are
Hmm.
there to make sure that we're delivering value and get them to renew. I
Okay.
think the second best practice is to
Hmm.
create a value proposition that is relevant to them. And I mean relevant in a couple areas.
Hmm.
We've created a new product at CAA, which is called non-roadside assistance, right?
Okay.
Non-roadside membership. It's
Yeah.
called Everyday. It's called Go. It's called Community. I pay money to get all the value of CAA without
Hmm.
roadside. So if my car breaks down,
Oh,
we're
okay.
not there. But I get the discount at Shell, I get the discount at Marriott, I get enterprise
Hmm.
rent a car, I get insurance, I get all these benefits. And so we've created a new subsegment. So the other part of a good membership program is innovate. Don't sit back on your laurels and say, aren't we great? We're doing fantastic. Costco's really good at it too. They do some great things. And I think the last part of it is
Hmm.
if you have the network of like-minded companies, which we do, for the love of Pete, please go and share with each other. We're not
Ah,
competitive with AAA. We're supportive of AAA. How do we help each
right.
other? How do we help
Right.
RACV in Australia or TCS in Switzerland to
Hmm.
do the right things for their business and leverage each other? So, I think we could certainly share best practices. I just don't want to
Right.
sell it short by just trying to pick out one thing.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, hey, it's traditional in these Let's Talk Loyalty podcasts that Paula Thomas has a question she always likes to ask people, and I may have previewed you on this. I'm fascinated to see what you think, but we always like to know from our guests what your favorite nonfiction book is and why.
My favorite nonfiction book, uh, and I'm going to say this. I'm right in the middle of the Barack Obama book right now. It's on my Kobo, but my favorite book was actually the biography of Keith Richards, which
Okay.
unbelievable story. First of all, how is that guy still alive? That's number
what
one.
everybody wants to know. Yeah.
Right. But how he created, and he's the brains behind, I don't care what anybody says. He's how he wrote, thought, came up with, lived his life, who he influenced. Fascinating book. Absolutely fascinating book.
Okay.
And I read it about 4 years ago, and it's one of those books I would go back to and read again because I'm sure I missed something.
That's great. Hey, you've inspired, actually, I wouldn't have thought about that. You never know what kind of a tale the famous rock star has to tell, but that I'm going to have to go pick that one up.
Yeah, I think it's called Life. I can't remember what it is, but Life. The Barack Obama book is interesting, but it's a heavier read. Keith Richards was a little bit more interesting. So, but I don't know how he's alive. I have no idea.
Amazing. So I have one other question that we came up with ourselves between Aaron and myself, and we really are curious to know if you've ever had an epiphany moment. If was there ever a time in your career, which is long and storied, to think about where maybe early on you had doubts or you were just doing your job, quote unquote, but all of a sudden you observed something that made you think, I think this really works?
It's a great question, and I'll actually equate it back to one of early days in my career, and I stayed at a Delta hotel, which is now part of Marriott, and I got an upgrade. And I asked them why I got an upgrade, and they said, because you stay here a lot. And I hadn't really thought about it. I wasn't in the loyalty business at the time. I was in the data business. And I thought, wow, so because I stay here, I get an upgrade. I mean, I don't know what I got, a bottle of water or something. I don't know what it was, but it was that first moment of, how did you know? Obviously, the data part. What else can I get? And is there more that I need to be thinking about? So it was my first kind of memory of, I'm still a Marriott guy, by the way, a Bonvoy guy, but it was the first time that it was one of those, it actually worked. I've had a lot of those, it didn't work, but that I remember clearly as one of the first times it really did work, where I was loyal to a brand and I got rewarded for it. Very simple concept.
It's fantastic. I love it. So you've been listening to Steve Allmen, EVP of Strategy and Partnerships at the Canadian Automobile Association. And this is part of the Wiser Loyalty podcast series, collaboration between Let's Talk Loyalty and the Wise Marketer. Steve, we don't spend enough time together for as long as we've known each other. I wish I could do that. We'll have to find a way to make it happen. So, but just for now, this has been fantastic, and I really appreciate your time in doing this.
Anytime, my friend. I'm always happy to support Wise Marketer, Loyalty Academy, Loyalty TV, between you and Aaron and everybody else. It's my pleasure.
Great. Thanks so much. All right. Thanks, everyone.